Alrighty, hello everyone. So in today's video, I'm going to show you just a little bit some things about my new brushes that I'm actually going to put on gumroad shortly, sooner or later. For this video, I'm just going to showcase a visual video version of how to use my cross-hatching, Scribbles, and Halftone brushes. I've really been lately interested in making my own fingerprints on paint or brush or ink that I kind of want to do to elevate my art style. But hey, I felt like it would be interesting to share how it works as a visual video. This video is much more for focus that if you're just looking on over Gumroad. I made some like tutorial stuff examples before you buy it. I felt like that would be a nice preview demo to see. Alright, so we're going to go over is the crosshatch and scribble brushes first, because usually I'm going to put those as my first brush pack and just leave as like the halftone brushes as a separate. So in visual terms, let's see. If you wanted to use any of my crosshatch brushes, like for example like this one right over here, basically what you can do is that you can fill like the areas around here, and then you can put like any black areas. Usually, I only use this brush where I want like just to paint bucket G-fill certain black areas and stuff like that, so I can make certain like line art or line work shading just pop out a little bit. And after that, I just mask it all and then just do all my textures there, so I can keep it in nice and neat and organized. And as the following steps here. And there's no like right or wrong with these steps over here. I'm just showing examples where you can place it over there. Usually I just use the eraser mode and just go through the cross-hatching brush. And then alternatively you can just fill it in if you like. Yeah. And I also do have some crosshatch paint, so we'll be going over the crosshatch paint. So let's just I'm just going to show you like a visual version of this step. So right off the bat, I'm going to create this like huge black paint. So now in this layer we can just like put some black paint over here to get started. We'll just imagine that we're just filling out some lines we want to do. Usually I just do control click just to on the image icon, so this can like have the whole selection just to be selected. So I can usually just mask it, so I can control the areas for how much I want to do here. And then next I just start using the cross hatching over here. And pretty much, this is pretty much simplematic as possible. And say for example, if you wanted to not do this method, you can just treat it like normally with a normal brush. You can just cross hatch and plop it everywhere. You basically do a lot of things with this. And see how much details you can get done like fast enough, but as long as it's like put appropriately, of course. Because why not let it be a little art or some artistic. But yeah. So I just apply the eraser mode. So to switch eraser mode, we can just toggle it over here. Or if you have a key command set out with that, which I do not know the default key commands because I modify my key commands to how I feel comfortable with based on Paint Tool SI and Photoshop. And then we'll just go over here, and then you can see you can press lightly, you can get some bright crosshatch tones, but if you want to go super deep, you can just press real hard. So this is all like pressure based and stuff. And as you can see, you can create like a nice sliver over there, so you can still keep the black stuff if the black like part of the like dark shadows is what you need, and you just need a little bit of like a gradient away of the light. So you can do like many things with it, of course. And it doesn't have to be big, it can be small and stuff like that. And you can just like plop some things around here. If you go here, you can get fill in and see how much detail that gets so quickly. And if you want to add some over here, you can add a little bit here. And then and just have fun playing around with it. And this tool, the reason why I made this tool over here, just to help me save some time to do instead of just like pure line hatching like over here. Because sometimes I do it manually every once in a while, but still I kind of want to save time a little bit so I can just save the stress out of my hands. Because you know, if you ever draw with your hands so much traditionally, or try to do it manually, you notice that your wrist can actually get some stressed out, and you don't take those times and breaks or use any stress balls just to relax it or adjust your hands or fingers a lot. then you can see you can develop a serious problem that in the long term you can create carpal tunnel. So that's why I kind of made, since I like cross-hatching a lot, that's why I kind of made this tool a little bit, so I can save my wrist like some extra lives. And then also, yeah, like for cross-hatch paint tool, let's explore that too. Because you can also, let's say for example, you can also do that. Yeah, you can also do that as a rewind thing too. But mostly, I prefer using this as a brush, but that's up to you to decide. See, like it just scatters over here. And the best part, it can pick up like color, like your color mixing too as well. So we'll have some fun playing around with it. This is like free textures and stuff. Now, on with the other one. So, the other one we have here is Scribbles. So, most of these methods that I do for textures pretty much similar, but you don't have to always follow the mask thing. I'm just using this example because usually I like to put controlled places where I do masks just to get a clean outlook. So, based on the Scribbles over here, I did use my own ways of creating textures, but you don't have to like do anything like digitally to create your alphas, and you can just like create something like out of like your notebooks or something, and just to create something really detailed and stuff like that. But you have to know like specifically an artist what kind of strokes you kind of want to do just to make sure, or you want to do the alphas. But usually when you're taking pictures like these, there's not really there's maybe some tutorials out there, but I do in the specific method to clean up the pictures I've taken with no basically studio lighting needed or anything, and you can do it all done within the software with Clip Studio. And you can, but it takes time to clean up and get certain errors because even though you have the traditional image just to help you get the base out for what you're creating your photo bash, what brushes what you want to behave with your alpha brushes, you would still need to like carve it out, erase some things, use some masking just to clean out which areas and how you want to use it and do that. Because so the ones I made over here, most likely I inverted some of my alpha, so I had to do a lot of cleanup to do. And the reason why I inverted my alpha, so once I switched to normal mode or eraser mode with some of my scribble inverts, I can recreate easily like scribble marks onto a pen and paper, so it looks real unbelievable as possible. And I do have one that's just the basics, just have the outlines of the scribble, which interestingly it can also behave as a brush too as well. So most of these can become a brush as well, so you can get some interesting results like this. So it looks like it's been scribbled on but yet painted. It gets that interesting texture look and feel. And then so you can just like add a negative eraser scribble chaos right over there, and then you can overfill it with scribble invert and to polish it. So it looks like there's like a gradient going on with this texture. And if you like zoom out or zoom in, it kind of looks like already it was pen drawn. And then alternatively, you can do, as I mentioned, like instead of like having everything all black, you can do the opposite, just like make your mask out and then paint all over it. And then still create interesting results too. You get like different textures and all that too. Almost the same alphas. And generally, the more alphas you generate similarly to how you want it to look than others, then the more variety you get out of the brushes you want to make. So I'll show you like an example of how my scribble brushes work. So first, as usual, I like to just, paint some there, and then we can have something as an example. So we're going to mask this out using Control Click, and then there should be a mask over here. And you can mask right at the bottom of here to create a mask. And then now what you can do is much more like this. And then you can start using your invert by using the eraser mode on here. And then you can see you can start pulling in some textures, marks areas. And it depends how big you want to go, too. So I usually like to start small with these Scribbles areas so make it look like there's some holes going on. So to kind of fill up the line over there. And you can see automatically it's just taking root on its own time over here. So you can see you can just play around with it, and then you can switch it back to normal, and then you can just fill that in over here. Yeah. And it already looks great as a texture. And then, yeah, and if you want, you can delete some areas too. Get some, like, scribble lines going. Make it a little bit more believable. So now you got, like, some certain outlines where the line scribbles are going. And just in case, if you do, like, the opposite side over here, I think you can nab. You can move it. So you still got kind of, like, over here. But yeah, you could do many things with it. But if this was ever inverted, it would probably look like this a little bit. But you can get away with a lot. And then, let's say if I fill this out, you get some areas up here. And plus, you do get some marks already when you get some drawing scribble here. See as well. And then you can get some scribble inverts just to get the feel of it. So it looks like it's like has some holes and varieties going on. So it's not like completely pure black. And it looks like it's part of the ink. Because now it looks like it's like there's some like emphasis going on here. So you get an easily nice flow of this, and it just only takes like seconds. And then you don't really have to like use some manual scribbles like this anymore. And yes, the Dune's manual scribbles, of course, everything takes time, of course, but sometimes you want to get your hands a rest on things, and sometimes you just want to enjoy the process, you know. Yeah, and then see how long that kind of took, and there's this over here. And there is ways that you can make things look better with it, which we'll be showing shortly after that. So yeah, that's just interesting stuff here. Alright, so now we are going to look at the second brush pack what we have over here. So what we have here is the halftones. So I did make two different brushes for these, like the regular halftone brush and halftone spraying. The reason why I have the halftone spray, so in case if you want to go like have a bit more crazy and much more pixel dotted going on here, then the halftone spray will just do it for you. And more or less, you should only use the halftone brush if you're like doing like a deep shade. And if you're doing a halftone spray, it should be more like a gradient look and feel. And yes, they're paintable too. So when you do your halftones, you can easily just spread them like this and that. And as I mentioned before, you can always just mask the layer out and stuff like that. So you get some interesting things going on here. But I did keep the halftone brushes separately over the crosshatch and the scribbles. It's just in case if you just want the crosshatch stuff instead of the halftone. So you got some vibrant things going on here. And then if we ever want to just like paint this out a little bit. And then just do Control-click, and then just to mask everything out, we'll just have the selection there. And all you do is hit the mask button. And then you can do some... Yeah, it's usually that for the halftone brush, if we go in activate eraser mode here, you can just swipe that down, and then boom, we got some interesting things going on here. Or, yeah, if you do decide to press lightly, you do get something like that. And you get something like this, too, as well. So, I always like to do pressure stuff. And in case I need to do, like, extreme, I can just do it like that. And then, and just let the tools to do most of the work, and then so you can envision better thoughts of how you want to imagine things. And that's what's great about Clip Studio, by the way. You gradually, slowly switch away from paint tool side to clip, because I used to make some brushes very in paint tool side, but the process of paint tool side of importing brushes just takes time, and it's never Clip Studio has more of like an easy feel that you can just create your brushes almost like Photoshop, but you can get away with a lot of certain things and tools in the settings. And of course, Photoshop doesn't have any blend tools, but Clip Studio has a great blend tool that emulates like paint tool size. So, and then yeah, you can use Halftones. I think it's the same thing. You can swipe it and stuff like that. You need impress large with it too, if you just want to get like something like this. So you're kind of like having a little bit of fuzz going on here. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of Flipnote Pentana a little bit, because Flipnote has her own like screen tone thing going on here, and you can have like a super. Yeah, because there are so many other ways you can do with this. So. And we will be showing all that tools when we do this in our demo over here very shortly. And we're just gonna draw something cool. I think we're gonna go for more like one of my other OCs, Christelle. Then we can start using the tools that I created to show as a video demo for you. So I'll be right back. Alrighty everyone, we are back. So this is going to be our little test here for how to use my brushes over here as an example, so you can get like some visual idea how you may place them and stuff like that. But usually what we'll start off for right now is we're going to show off the Crosshatch brushes and some Scribble brushes, of course, although I may come back to the Scribble brushes again just to do a little bit some painting texture, a little bit over there and stuff like that. So, anyway, but usually what I usually start with the cross-hatching a lot. It's basically I fill in the areas black, and then I will put the textures in for the cross-hatch in there, so I can keep everything neat and organized. And sometimes once I finish that, I may try to do regular cross-hatching outside a little bit, the outside my masked area. So usually, from what I start is I'll just create like a new layer over here. I always like to keep my layers organized in that. And then we'll just hit Control G and just put it in a folder bind. Go through. And then also real quick, just choose your outline layer and then just select reference as layer. So every time we use the G fill bucket, it will be telling the thing to stay in this area and not go a little bit too crazy. And then I'm going to name this layer let's just say, yeah, Crosshatch Fill, which is short for abbreviation CH Fill. I like abbreviating stuff on my work, so it's just easier just to type it, name it, and just move on. And we don't have to name this layer since we have it under here, so all of it's going to be duplicated copy files in case I want to go back and forth with it. And then what we're going to start is just use any brush for now. We'll go back to my brushes later, but you can use any brush that you have in Clip Studio, and then usually what we're going to do is fill it out. So there's two ways you can do this. You can either just lasso around here, and then use the fill bucket from there, and then repeat the same step, or do multiple and just G-fill everywhere else, like you're doing, like, for example. Lasso here, lasso there, and then you just fill a bucket like here. But personally, I prefer doing some, like, this way instead. So we're gonna have probably some shadows probably going, like, around here, and then we'll have it come down like here too as well. And then some areas like that. But make sure the darkness forefront over here. So what we're gonna do, I would usually just draw this around here. Just draw my marks. And then do a little bit of that. I think I might want to keep a little bit of that whiteness over here. Yeah, like that. And then I just use the G-fill bucket. And just keep in mind, refer multiple layers, reference, and then you can adjust the tolerance and scaling in the close gap how much you want. Then it's pretty much you can just fill like that. And then I would just repeat like that. And then I'll just do another one to find which areas to G-fill bucket. Then after that, we'll be right back, and well, we'll have like a time lapse of this. So we'll do another one over here, like the obvious one, because usually my style, I like to fill this the eyelashes around. And put some neat textures in here. So we'll just fill this area here, so I can keep it almost like an outline. Yeah, and keep it more like a comic style a little bit. So we'll just go around over here, just move it around, do that. And you can see why I like to do that, because if you ever want to save your progress with the lasso tool, your lasso marks will not be saved, because they'll automatically be deleted during the next time you relaunch it. But if you have like a separate layer and you just trace and you put in your line to trace it almost to behave like an outline filler, then those marks will be saved because it's painted on there. So sometimes if you're planning to use the lasso tool and stuff like that, just make sure it's in one, mostly like a few clicks use, and don't use it like just to try to control where it goes. Because just in case if you gotta be right back somewhere, or if you got some real life stuff to do, then that could damage your progress, and you probably have to like basically leave your computer on, which that's not ideally. You don't want to use a computer on because any unused electronics could like raise the bills, you know. You just want to fill it over here. And just go over here. Ah. And after that, you just fill a bucket. So now you got this nice crease. And we're pretty much going to do this with the eyebrows over here too. And much other areas like that. So, yeah, it's not that bad, not that painful. I just prefer to do it that way. I've seen a lot of people use the lasso tools just to do shell shading and stuff like that, which is fine. But it's only good if you already have the mask with it, so you don't have to worry about too much with the other areas in that one. And usually how I create my mask based on G-fill in my areas with the Advanced Paint Bucket tool, Clip Studio Paint. And then you can easily just fill bucket all the areas up to your line artwork. Then after that, you can take that layer by control-clicking it, and then automatically create a mask in there. So you don't have to like worry about outlining the actor. You just save more time to do that without pressuring yourself just to do the lasso tool before coloring. Because lasso tooling can take time as well. Especially even though Clip Studio recently released a new tool for the lasso thing. I'm kind of a bit iffy with it, but I'm really more interested in their just making some line circles and then G-filling it, and then using the wand just to control-click to automatically select that whole piece of layer, and it just saves a lot of time for me. So we'll be right back to the part once I lay out all my black fills, and then we'll get to the cross-hatching part soon. Alrighty guys, we are back. So I just finished filling out my lap fill stuff, and now since we have enough space to do some testing with the brushes and stuff like that and Scribbles, I might throw in some halftones actually in, because I got pretty much some ideas, because usually I like to put halftones around her eyes, if her eyes are like basically more dark, as an alienistic trait to have. Alright, so what we're going to do is just basically play around with brushes. So usually I just duplicate this. So in case I have to back up, in case I want to go back. And then what I'm going to do is hit Control Select. And then I'll just select all this. Then I can do and just hit the mask button. And then it'll mask it for me. So now what I can do, I can just go haywire every single detail I want to. And yeah, and I can just start having some fun. So, I'm going to start with maybe a little bit halftone brush. Start with that. See how that well works. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends. And sometimes you may need to go through a different style. So you see how it's kind of like changing the thing a little bit. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And if I just want a specific area that's just halftones and not all over the place, just grab your lasso. And you can tell the thing is just like, go over here. And then we just go back to our halftones thing, and we just start pulling in. We can also make it bigger. Have something going on like that. Or what we could do is Control Delete. And just remove eraser mode. And get something like this. So now you got more of a texture thing going on here. Stuff like that. So there's many attempts that you can do this for. I kind of like the halftones there, so we're going to leave it as that here. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Okay, we just select that and then just delete that section of the layer. And then you just start adding stuff there. We go back to our thing, add our little halftones. Yeah. And it's very far distance, so you could choose to make it bigger than that. But I do kind of like it when it's small like that, maybe. So if I did choose to make it bigger, I can make it bigger right there, but then you can scooch that up just a little bit. And it would be something like this. And then let's see if we can play around with some bit of crosshatching here. So you just select the areas that you want to crosshatch. If you want to keep things clean. And then you can just tell Alt just to remove that. And then you can begin crosshatching. And then you can start to see you can get some really neat areas here. That was starting to form. And if you want to make that deeper over here, we can cross mix with the scribble inverts and just start inverting the scribbles here to make it a bit more ink-like. Because always imperfection is always better. And then sometimes you can flip back and forth with this. And then we'll add a little bit of scribble chaos here. You can get some areas. Maybe a few pats of that. And then let go, and then we get something like this. And then we get all a lot more detail here. And then you can pile that on and still do other things too. I think we'll do another one or a little bit over here too as well. And it's also you can take your time with it too as well. And it's just an easier process because all that time with cross-hatching would probably take a extra 2 minutes. But then my hands feel fine, it's stress-free and stuff like that, so. And it still looks great. Kind of looks like already it's been cross-hatched appropriately. So let's do them now. So I think I want to go a bit crazy with the mouth here. And sometimes maybe we do use Crosshatch paint, even though I originally used it for paint. Get something like that. That crazy, possibly. We also, if you want to zoom out, you can see how much the textures is doing. If you don't like that, then you can always hit the Crosshatch Chaos, which it gives you just enough for the ink thing. So usually, yeah, eventually we'll use some of the Crosshatch paint once we get to the painting part of this. You got way more options here. So now you got like a little bit more detail going on here, and it's just instant, and it just saves you a lot of time. So let's do the neck area to show another example of how we can use this tool. Go over here, and then what we can do is switch back to Crosshatch, and yeah, just start piling it up. I just gotta be careful not hitting the buttons there. And then boom, we got like massive detail here going on. And that's like a time saver. This is literally a time saver. Because if you look at and zoom out, because as long as the basically the final result is always like gonna be like this. And I'm not expecting everyone to like zoom in the artwork or anything. No one's not really gonna do that. They're just gonna see the image, what it looks like. If they like it, they like it. So because from a far distance, it does emulate cross-hatching really well. Regardless if you do zoom up a little bit, but still, at the end of the day, it's not about zooming up to see every single pixel. It's all about the final result. And if you enjoy it, of course. We got the negative there too as well. And then maybe at some points that if I want to do some manual edits of crosshatch, you can. It's optional if you want to do in certain areas. So almost like if you want to do something like here, new layer, and just get any pencil. And you can just, let me just shrink that down. And just fill that away. Stuff like that. I mean, most of the tools are great that build free efficiency, but sometimes if you want it, like a specific area that you need, you can always just do this. Yeah, so, I mean, you can keep around, exploring around and stuff like that. So, what's going to happen next now, that we're going to fast forward to this video again, and you're going to see more details of how we're and add on stuff. And then, after that point, we'll get to the, you know what, we'll speed up to the painting part of this, so you can get an idea how you would use my tools, the cross-hatching and scribble brushes as a color format, especially with the background too. So, other than that, I think this is a good time to speed up. Alrighty guys, welcome back. So now, since I just finished doing all the flat colors, now we can get started to do some paint mixing with a little bit of my crosshatch and brushes and stuff like that. But however, if you do have any questions in the future, feel free to drop it down in the comments below, and then perhaps maybe I'll make a an art tutorial how to do things. So yeah, feel free to pick my brain. Alright, anywho, so since now we got like our flat colors and stuff like that, what we're gonna do now that I'm going to create a new layer. So that's usually on my key commands Control Shift N, but if not, there's always the plus sign new raster layer, and you can hit new raster layer. And there's two ways you can do this. One, you can either hit Control click and then start painting, or if you don't want to see all these like wand lines over here and stuff like that. What you can always do is basically do like, just create the mask. And then it'll just apply it on there. I could just like create a, duplicate the flat layer and then just paint on there so I can get some of the blending in there. I could do that. And this can be like a paint overlay. So overlay as in like any little highlights and stuff like that. So we're gonna do that instead. But actually I take that back, never mind. Because the last time when I blend stuff, it did see through the transparency over here, so we can't have that. Unless we duplicate it. No, we'll duplicate it. We'll do that. We'll just Control J, and then we'll just call this paint layer. So that means every time when it blends, it doesn't like interfere with it. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna get to the pink area over here. We're gonna start off as that, and then we're gonna switch to. I think we'll do some scribbles. In case it does that, we can always hit Control Select, and then we can start doing this. So it doesn't get all over the place. We're good. And yes, you can start like blending them and stuff like that just a little bit. We're just getting started in certain areas. And then if you want to trickyly change colors around here, we could. We can. And then sometimes some of the brushes does inherit a little bit on the second palette. Just a little bit. So we can always just twist it a little bit. Just keep it blue and see how it goes. As you can see, you can start getting some textures and variety over here. And if we didn't like that, we can just always do some inverts here. Well, some inverts over here. And just let that build up. And since we are on the second layer, we can always just do invert. And then we can have something like this. You can see we've got some textures going on here. Then maybe we'll do a little bit halftone brush. We're just constantly just tweaking things as we go by. And then if we want, since she does have some green and blue too as well, we can do a little bit of that aqua. And just keep it a little bit much more retro-like there. You can always increase the brush size and that density. Yeah, you want to bear in mind with the other side too. And some details we'll get over just a little bit. And we get something going on here. That's a little too much. So yeah, it gives you more texture, more life in that. There we go. Yeah, and in case if you don't want something like that, we can always get the lasso and hit Alt. And then we can just link this out here. There we go. You see we're getting some details now. And then if you want to reset the layer, you can hit Control Select, and then it'll select that. And then next we can have some creases going on here. And then we'll do something with the also for her skin too. I think sometimes Scribble will be almost regular Scribble. And then we can start sampling from other colors and start blending this just a little bit. And then we'll add a little bit of Crosshatch brush here. And if you want to add color mixing, you can press the color mixing button over here. Then it'll just behave like a regular normal brush and color mixing if you want to do that. Chaos a little bit. We'll just add some there. And then we'll add some spam over it. And then we'll bring in some little bit halftones here. So at the end of the day, it's all about experimenting to see what works and doesn't. Some of that area over here. Some padding over here. It's usually kind of like I have a little bit abstracting that. So far, I'm liking the hair so far with the textures and that. And then I think we'll chill on the hair for now, and we'll just focusing on other things. Also, side mention, grayscale always helps. You can see where it goes. And also you can disable color mixing and crosshatch paint too. So we'll click over here, some of that areas and stuff. Maybe put a little bit of orange here, so that's more vibrant stuff going on. And then you always activate color mixing, then you can start mixing. So I recommend, like, if you're using these brushes, cross between like color mixing and mixing. So sometimes when you need that orange to shine more, you just disable color mixing. Then after that, you put your lay down. Then you activate color mixing. Then you can get that blend going on. The brushes between areas. And we can also increase the brush size to that too as well. And almost have like kind of slightly opposite colors to it as well. So we're gonna have some color mixing around here too. Splash, and then we'll add that, activate that too, and then we'll start blending that. Some interesting effects. See, and then now we can just pop up if you want to get some shine light in there, you can. And then after that, we can go to the color mixing, start blending these two together. And then let's change this up a bit. What goes? But then I'll just do some final touches because right now the scribbles are actually kind of helping making this. Because usually those the brushes I originally designed for was for line work, but then kind of itself that can be also a brush as well. Because ironically you can use it to paint. And then we can slowly creep up this a little bit. You can look at it so far without the dots. Okay, it's looking there. It's getting there. It actually looks very clean so far. Some areas. And sometimes I think I may want to put something. Maybe if I want to do like a lasso over here, and then alt, we can remove this, and then we can do something about it. So, also we do some scribble line, but I want to see how much I can push the halftones at too. So maybe a little bit of magenta. Ooh, okay. So we're getting something. And then sometimes you want to press a double tap or something like that. What else we can get from here. And then we can release. And just in case to double check, we want to check our value, see how that goes, see if it's causing any interference. It looks like it's not that bad. So we just remove this, see if there's any decay. Not that bad. We get over here. Perhaps maybe the color's a little bit too much. Maybe I want to dial that back a little bit. Yeah, that was it. It was the colors. But I kind of do like when it was like, so we want to test to see how it looks so far before, and here's so much with after. So we're doing a lot of changes here. So I think I'm going to keep it like that a little bit around here, because it does help a little bit. Especially with her iris being a little bit more in there. So we're going to go through, do the process again, see what else we get. Sometimes you can press lightly so you don't have to like, so our eyes kind of shine a little bit. And then maybe we'll try to put some screen tones around this. And I also, I think when we're done with the certain texture parts, I do going to have like a little bit of opacity, so that's a little bit for my own artistic reasons for the shirt. Maybe have a little bit transparent. I mean, we're brightening up that a little bit. Halftone brush in there. I think we'll make this bigger. We might want to add a slight alternate. And then for me, I'm just going to do something a little personal. So now I'm going to see if we want to do any regular brush here over here to take the skin tone around here. Maybe possibly show her a bit of low skin. Because eventually once I do some of the shading and lighting and after textures here, I do want to show her a bit of her wetness. Just a little bit, just to shine. It's not gonna. And then we can double check if everything's correct by just doing this. Because eventually we're going to use the level tools and color balance. I think we can keep it as is the tip. Maybe you just do a little crosshatch. Color, sample it, and then here, and then we can activate color mixing. Just to get some areas here. Just get a little bit more emphasis. But yeah, but the tools are unlimited. You don't always supposed to basically, if you see like this tool can like help you in any sort of way for the style that you're building or a style that I would say the crosshatch and stuff like that is really good. And then you can just do a little bit here, maybe not that. And then I'll switch that to, and then we're gonna use some of that overlay. So what we can do with the paint overlay is that since the point of overlay that it can just like make everything lighter a little bit. But for the brushes I have, this can possibly help when you're just making like very articulated textures going on. So, like, say for example, if I put like a different color over here, and then I start using it, or maybe okay, let's see if we can figure out. Yeah, because sometimes when it goes over here, you get some very instead of white, I hate white. Let's not use white. So let's go over here and just start putting some rashes. What it'll do, it will just basically captures everything which you have over here so far, and then kind of a little bit punch out. So now you're getting a little bit more serious textures. And if you want to do crosshatch paint, which that's going to go crazy a little bit. More crosshatch. But sometimes these are like, personally, I think crosshatch. But if you ever do like a full-on painterly stuff without any comic art styles, and you want to go on full-on crosshatch paint, it's possible that you can sculpt something out of that. And then sometimes it's good to have like opposite colors come around over here too. It just rounds it out too. And then we can flip this by doing some maybe blue around here, like that, or something like this. I have some like blue filter. It's got since the background of here is kind of blue. Maybe have some reflective going on here. And we're not even to the shading part, so we're just having fun texture going left and right. And then we'll switch to a bit of, and then maybe we can throw in some little orange. Okay, getting some interesting areas going on here. Oh, that's basically throwing see what we're also going to paint the background. We'll get that. And I do think we'll do it where I'll just add a bit more textures on around. But yeah, it's most likely the process over here. And let's see what else. Do anything. Yeah, you know what? Maybe throw a little bit of green. See how that goes. It's not bad enough. Yeah, because you always want to be experimenting here. Alrighty, I think we done enough, so we can see any small difference here. And then after that, we'll do some background paint. So pretty much what we're gonna do, in case if we want to have a backup layer, we can hit Control J, and then we can use this. And then we're gonna choose a color over here. And then usually I like to use Scribble. And then we can start scribbling around here to see what we get. So now we're getting some interesting, and then we can go see invert texturing here. And then lastly, we'll do some screen. Alright, and then yeah. I think this would be good enough. And then if you want to, we can always just, alrighty, yeah. And then what we're going to do now is just basically change up the values and beef up the colors. And then we'll get to the shading part of this, so you can see what we can do with the shading part of Scribbles too as well. So yeah, we'll be right back. Alrighty guys, we are back. Oh wait, let me change. Alrighty, there, that's much better, now you can see me. So, the next step I want to do is the shading part. Now the shading part is like, can be really interesting, you can use as another example for many crosshatch brushes and stuff like that. Let me get some like texture results starting to get these over here. And so far, just as a quick reference, I edit the base colors a little bit using some color. And then this is like a shape layer, so I use gradient maps usually for shading because it does get captures and you can edit, and then you can just use a mask and lasso too. So I'm just going to call these layers dark and light, so I'm confused. So right now I have that light layer hidden, but we're going to play around with that later when we get to a certain point. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use the brushes that I mentioned to create the shading. We're going to start a little bit cross-hatching. And as you can see, you can get picking up a lot of detail. And basically the lighting can go focus down more here too. And I'm not so worried about the eyes, because I'm actually going to just use a regular. Because personally I like her eyes like much more dark over here. But a funny, interesting thing when you're playing with masks, you can always just revert. So what we could do is that we'll just create a night. So we get something like the very interesting stuff. And then you could also do something. It does beam out a lot of things over here, but I don't think I want to use it. I don't know, but we'll experiment. You can see how much detail you got away with this. And always double. And at certain points, it's always okay to use some your basic brushes too, because it also helps. And then what you can do, put some screen tones here, the blend thing, do some scribbling too as well. Because I do know most of the values are holding up with the already brush. But yeah, it's simply as it goes. Same thing with the lighting part too. I think my most favorite brush out of this all is just a crosshatch, because it works so really well, especially with the attention to detail. And then we could have some halftones here, not halftones, but yeah, but lighting process, because I'm doing like certain touch-ups. And then since this part's like right over here, we can add a little bit of cross-hatching tool over here too, just to get some bit of texture going, so I have something going. And then just double check. Usually I get like a double. So right now at this point, I'm just finding every little excuse to add So you have the shaders that are causing the difference here. Alright, we'll get to the lighting process of this process. So the point is that you can actually add still stuff anywhere should you go. So we'll be right back. Alrighty, I am back. So now we are going overall. I think we're just overlapping a bit more special everything. So this will be the most likely bonus. I think I'll show you how I grade. But yeah, let's do a little bit of lighting. I think I'm not gonna overdo the lighting too much. There's not really environmental going on. There's just the back. We just have a little bit touch up. So I already basically turned my mask black. Used a Control Select 1 to select my layers to highlight the area. So now, without further ado, we can get started playing around with brushes. And as you can see, you can start putting some lighting into it. Out has a little glare to it. Maybe we put some areas over here too. Nah, we'll just go with, okay, we're getting somewhere. Yeah, I want to put a little light, and we'll just use the Scribble brush just to do it. But if you also enjoy this so far, the whole showcase of my brushes, feel free to drop a like. Any questions that you have too, yeah, because I'll be happy to make some future videos for consideration. I'm always looking for content. But as I think the Scribbles will work best for this, because since we're just output some things over here. We have plenty of cross-hatching things going on, but we'll just scribble some areas. It also kind of adds a light up polish here. Oh yeah, and the eyes too. Do a little bit going on her eyes. Scribbles invert. No, so I might put a little gradient in there. Yeah, I will. Here's her eye. Alright, we'll go back to this brush. The scribbles. See, some scribbles already done have an added texture. And sometimes the smaller you go, the more. Yeah, see, we could go back a little bit. Yeah, I love how things can be going. Alright, and then we can compare, see, just a little bit light. Maybe we can add a. Oh, we get something like this. Okay. No, we'll leave. We'll leave this. We can put this in some areas over here too. We gotta control click here. Alrighty, and then now since a little bonus, we're gonna do some gradients here on her. So alrighty then. So now, what we're gonna do now is just do Control Shift N. So, and we're gonna call this grade, and we're gonna give this more of a vivid so we know how this is gonna blend. Now first, I'm going to choose some interesting colors here. I'm going to do a little bit more saturated orange yellowish here. And maybe we'll twist it down to more of a blue here. And we'll just, deepen that just a little bit. And the next one, we'll just do some gradients. And then, let's see. Now the light is more focused on this way to that way. So, I mean, we could do a line straight, or we could do a full circle here. But we'll see what it looks like. Opposite. Okay. So we do this over here. And then once we have something like this, we can always just tail it down a little bit. And we get some interesting results here. And then we adjust where the thing is. Well, we need to check to see how it goes over here to here. And then we can test to see any difference here. So there's some slight difference going on here. So, we can do that. Well, let's see if we want to change some of the tonal correction here. And we'll go here, saturation. At least it's a little bit better than last time. We'll put it over here, and then we can check to see the lighting, see how much the values have changed. See that. See how the values change just a little bit left and right. It's more focused down over here. So now we got something going on here a little bit. And then the eyes, I did mention I kind of want to glow a little bit, so we'll do that too. We'll call it eye glow. And we're going to use the same thing as vivid light here. And it's going to be transparent. Foreground transparent. Maybe, no, more purplish. And then here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of circles going like that. And then, since it's super bright, we can always just dim it down a little bit. And then we can check with then lastly, as usual, I always go like this, edit, tonal correction, use saturation. And then saturation, you can always dim down the saturation. I think I'm going, the reason why I think might go for red is because since the purple is already existent. I mean, her eyes are purple, that is true. I may change my mind. But I did like how this, because it's less saturated a bit. So, what if I do... Oh! Maybe we should keep it like that. Okay, it's not that bad. We'll keep it like that. But maybe now I'm trying to look at the background. Maybe I want to do something with that. So, if we go back to the background just a little bit, we control select that, and then do some control U. We can change the hue of it. Oh, and we get some other interesting results too as well. Oh, we could do 0 for that. I might just try to change some colors. Oh, I see. This is overlaying. No, I think I have an idea of what's triggering me a little bit. I think it's still the outline. Now we're getting somewhere. So yeah, after a little bit playing around with color, so yeah, from time to time when you learn color theory, you just tend to change things around. Even though it's the base color of your character you want, lighting still matters and still change the output of the environment. So yeah, and this concludes the brushes that used most of it in Attack, but also the examples what you can use, like if you have like any other brushes left with you with the basic stuff, including the Clip Studio basic stuff, and then you add this as a polish overlay, just to get the nice detail flowing around here. So it feels like much more crosshatch and stuff. But this is just one approach at the end of the day. Another approach, if you don't have to, if you do want to go use this full-on painting for whatever reason, and not go, because this is originally was designed for more like a comic style, but if you want to go full-on painting, it's likely possible. Gotta say, if I decided to remove the line art on here, for whatever reason, I mean, without it, you could still see you could do some shading around here and stuff like that. Pretty much. And then you're gonna add like painting and stuff like that. I mean, you can kind of create like a different, unique style out of it. I think after when I finish uploading these brushes too soon on Gumroad, I will have like start playing around with some sketch ideas for that. So for sure, we're gonna see some of that soon. All right, thank you all for watching and peace.